Legends. G'day, legends. G'day, superstars. Peps and Jdog here for, well, we're back for round 11. We missed round 10, so we'll have a bit of a chat about that. Great to have everybody on board. Great to have everybody joining us live as per usual. Great to have everybody listening on the podcast as per usual as well. But more importantly, it is great to have the Jdog joining me again after we were both a little bit crook last week, mate. How you feeling? And footy's in a pretty good spot, I reckon, right about now.
I'm feeling $1 million. Yeah, I had conjunctivitis last week, and you were a bit sore as well. But
tonsillitis.
For the listeners and the viewers tonight, we've gone the old twin dongs. We're going to give them 2 episodes in one.
2 episodes in one. It's like Spice Girls when 2 became 1.
Correct.
Beautiful. Lots to get through. It's going to be a cracker of an episode. Before we get into it, just a couple of housekeeping things. First and foremost, everybody who joined moi at the East Keeler Football Club past Players Day 2 weeks ago. Cracking day. Macca did an amazing job. It was a big day. Lace out was on the lips of many that day. I caught up with Fang. We had a photo again together. It was just an absolutely belter of a day. Quite a number of beverages were consumed and may have led to one of the reasons why I was not able to join last week. Cracking day. Football has just been immense over the last 2 weeks. Yes, Melbourne did lose to Eagles, and we are probably going to touch on that because we got Harley Reeded. Understandable. But outside of that, Jdog, anything you want to bring up before we get stuck into some? I've got one massive topic that I need to bring up with the group and an idea how to fix it. And we've also had a listener dial in with us as well too, who's left a bit of a message for us about the Melbourne Football Club. And we've got to do research on that.
Bit of a message. Jesus, bloody.
It's good.
It's half our show.
Hey, by the way, I got a joke for you, according to Craig Jones. North Melbourne. He's gone hard already. He's already gone hard. All right.
I like it. All right, Peps.
All right. Let's get into it. Let's get the ladder going. I'm going to put us on top because we like to be on top. Rightio. Sydney Swans sitting beautifully. 40 points, 2 games clear pretty much of Essendon. Geez, they're playing some cracking footy at the moment, the Dons, but their run home is going to be a hell of a lot harder. So Paradise might become a nightmare over the next few weeks, but if they keep doing what they're doing, they are in a pretty good spot. Yatapulti, which is otherwise known as Port Adelaide. I don't know how they're third, but they are. And then you've got a plethora of teams on 28. You've got My Mob Nam, GWS, cracking win on the weekend, Geelong, Collingwood, and Carlton rounding out the top 8. Then you got Wallalup. You've got, that's Fremantle, Gold Coast on 24, Western Bulldogs on 20, Caruana on 18, I think it is, Brisbane Lions, Hawthorn. Hey, they're coming back pretty nicely as well too. Euro York, Wanajawara, Richmond, and North Melbourne last. I actually feel like George Danikian reading out the European soccer teams as I was trying to go through a few of those names too. Look, Jdog, let's call it for what it is. You'd say everybody under probably the Bulldogs is out of it, you'd say?
Correct. Done. Season over.
Look it out. Season over. That saying, though, the only 2 teams I could see them probably having a bit of a run might be Adelaide, but they're useless away from home. And Hawthorn, who have got, I think they've got 4 in a row at the moment. So that's all 3 out of their last 4 in a row.
Nah, 2.5 games out of the 8 at this point. Not happening.
Yep. And throw in the percentage too. They're a bucket load out there as well too. It's going to be very, very interesting. But I reckon it's down to everybody under the Western Bulldogs is out of it. So start packing for Vegas. We will be doing a recap next week after the halfway mark of the season to sort of see how teams are performing as well too. Anything you want to bring up, Jdog? Anything that you want to raise? Anything surprising you at the moment? Is anyone going to jump in? Who's going to jump out?
The only team that will jump out of this race here, which will exclude themselves next month, is going to be Gold Coast Suns.
Yep.
Because it's starting to get cold, and you know how they get at this time of the year.
Yep.
So no, nothing surprising. Essendon, I think you've said there, 7 wins in a row. Sydney Swans are
flying.
I know Harley Reid is the belle of the ball at the moment, but how Chad Warner is not the king of the Moomba, I don't understand. He is unbelievable.
Oh, he's a freak, isn't he?
Unbelievable.
It's you got to dodge your
39,
wrench, you got to dodge your ball, you got to take out Heaney, but then you got Goulden. You take out Goulden, you've got the Warner. Like it just doesn't get any easier.
39 Peps. He was there for everyone. He was there for everyone.
I know, but just goes to show they got something up there in the water. Costs you $20 a litre, but there's something up there in the water in New South Wales. All righty.
Other than that, Peps, I think the 8 is looking at pretty good at the moment. Oh, he's going to go and get something. What is he going to get? All right, it's my show then. All right, so we are here for the Port Adelaide Hour. Welcome back to the Port Adelaide Hour. Tonight, our guest host is Peps is back.
I just had to shut the door. Just didn't want the family, having a big blue in the background coming in over. By the way, hey, do you like the new addition to the lace out set? Check out how good is the lace out neon sign at the back. Just goes to show we still don't make $1, but if you're nice enough to people, they tend to buy you a thing too.
I was just about to set a record for our show, Peps, this week.
What's that?
We're just going to have an hour of Port Adelaide, the second most popular Port Adelaide podcast behind the boys. Yeah.
But now, things have been raised as well too. North still last, and expect the bye to get the job done this week after a tight first half. The bye by 61 points, and this is a bit rough. It's funny how Peps doesn't understand how Port are third, yet his team lost to the Eagles. That's not bad. That's not bad, Craig. Yep, pretty not good. Bad at all whatsoever.
Do we want to just expel the demons of last week and then move on with our week?
Oh, shit.
Round something.
Eagles are not hard. Eagles are not easy to play at home. Everywhere else, useless. Play them at home on that big deck, big ground, Optus. They love it there. So be it. We didn't turn up. They did. What more could you ask for? It was simple.
You got pumpeted.
We got Harley Reeded.
You got Harley Reeded.
We got Harley Reeded when he went. Go away, Oliver. Go away, Petrarca. Champagne showers. Seriously, if you didn't have the Kleenex out when you saw that, you don't like football.
Can we talk about my game?
Yeah, go about your game.
I think I've watched the ending, the final 34 seconds of that game. I reckon no less than 300 times.
One of the greatest. Well, I wrote that last week saying that you weren't able to join us because you had to watch the last 2 minutes 30 times. That was one of the biggest comebacks. I was glued to the TV. Like the fact that you kicked 2 goals in 30 seconds was astounding. But DBJ to go back and slot that goal was Willie Rioli, to go back and slot it was, I think that was the more impressive one. The other one was a fluke, let's be honest.
Yeah.
To go back and slot it, wet night, 40. Yep. I saw Lee Ali at the big day. He's asked me how the second half of that pizza was. Let's just say, Lee, it ended up in a plastic bucket next to the bed. Wasn't pretty.
No, you gotta go hard, though.
Big day.
Go hard.
Big day. Good on him. Yeah, right. So let me go. 60 seconds. Hey, let me go through the round of footy from last week as well, too. The week before, let's not worry about. Look, your team were awesome. Mine were poo. Let's talk about the week that just went past. In a nutshell, Doggies versus the Swans, cracker of a game. If the Doggies didn't go down with injuries, I reckon they would have almost pinched that one. They're getting some form. For a long time, I thought that Beveridge had lost them, but what they've showed up over in the last probably month of football has been really nice, and they just got hit with injuries. Simple as that too. Fremantle, Collingwood. Look, to be honest, I fell asleep when Collingwood were up by about 4 goals, and then I turned it back on and it was a draw. So did Collingwood win it? Did Fremantle lose it? Did Collingwood lose it? Did Fremantle win it? Look, this is why we have draws. If you can't win a game over 100 minutes of football, you don't deserve to have a result. And don't give me this free kick. Was it a free kick? It wasn't a free kick. It was there every day of the week. Maybe they over-umpired it, but it is a legit free kick. And there's probably other circumstances throughout the game that cost them the win anyway. So I wouldn't worry about that. Port Adelaide, they virtually had the bye against North Melbourne. I'm not going to worry about that. Carlton, Suns really disappointed me. Really, really disappointed me. I actually picked them this week to beat Carlton, but Carlton just do what they do, and that's a win that they have to keep their not just finals, but their top 4 aspirations in place. Really good to see Zach Williams kicking 4, Kerno kicking 4, Mac Andrew. I've got a man crush on that bloke as well too. GWS, look, they are Geelong's bunnies. Geelong, everybody thinks they're still in with a hunt. I think that they're finished, to be honest. I think that they're finished. I know they're in the 8 at the moment. I just don't trust them.
7 years in a row, you've been claws.
Yeah, but you know what? Eventually, you can bet on red, but black's going to turn up. And I just think that the aging bodies are starting to kick in. Hawkins isn't what he is at the moment. They've got no Blitzarves this week. They're going to have another injury out, another suspension as well too. I think it was Clark. They're going to find it hard. And GWS won a game, and once again, my love child Toby Green killed it. Dream time at the G. Geez, you'd almost say if Ben Mackay wasn't playing or Ridley wasn't playing, Richmond win this game. They had no right to even be close after what they served up the week before against Brisbane. But that was a belter of a game. And I've said this over the years before, Ridley is probably their most important player. And for him to come back and dominate in the first game back after a substantial time off the sidelines is a great result. And Essendon just keeps surprising everybody as well. We spoke about the Hawks a little bit. The Brisbane Lions, they are in massive trouble. I don't know if Vegas Gate has caught out this team, but they are a shell of a team that dominated the entire season last year and fell away to lose a grand final only by a few points. And the Hawks, they're serving up good footy at the moment and playing really good footy. So things are starting to click there. I remember we both said that Mitchell was in a bit of trouble. It's amazing how a month or 6 weeks of football can turn things right around. I witnessed basically the worst team in the 8 versus the worst team outside of the 8. It was an absolute shocker for the first half of footy yesterday. The East End turned it on. That should have been a 50-point plus margin. Junk time goals are the only thing that's saving St Kilda, and they're going absolutely nowhere. And the Weagles, talk about going from chocolates to boiled lollies in the space of a week, demolish the D's on their home deck, and they get demolished by the Adelaide Crows without ranking as well too. So Adelaide, they're just a big tease, aren't they? Just when you think that they're going to take 2 steps forward, they're going to always take 1 step back, and they're pretty much going to end up in the same spot doing nothing. So it was an interesting sort of roll around for all the games thus far, but really excited to it's really setting up a nice second half of the season, which I didn't see coming. I knew it was going to be probably an even season, but not what it is right now. It's out of control. How there's the virtual 8-point games. You have a look at the games coming up this week, and when we do 1 week at a time, I'll go through them. It's 8-point games from probably the next month at a minimum. It's awesome. Footy's in a really good spot, except for one thing, which I'll bring up very, very shortly.
Okay, a couple of questions.
Yes.
What game was more exciting, the Freo Collingwood on Friday night or the Cats versus Giants?
Oh, geez, that's a cracking question. Who raised that question? You? If you raised that question, it's about time you brought something to this show. Like I said, I admit I fell asleep watching the Fremantle game and only saw the main highlights of the GW. I'd say the Fremantle game for the simple fact that they were out of it. They were gone. And if you gave them another minute, they probably would have won it. I won't take that away from GWS, who have won their past 4 games down at GMHBA Stadium. Well, that's massive in itself for them to be able to do that. So I think the Fremantle game was an epic conclusion, and probably it is the right conclusion. But GWS, especially the week before, they weren't too flash. And to come out and do what they did, it was really nice. And it was nice to see Toby Green get a bit of form as well, too. That goal he kicked was an absolute smoker as well, too.
What is that called? A check side or a banana check side? What's that one?
Check side. It's check side.
Unbelievable.
Check side.
Banana
is when you kick it the other way.
Yeah.
Banana's on the inside.
There's a check side. There's a check side that flattened out.
It was just a sexual tyrannosaurus of a kick.
It was a very good kick. The part that interested me most from that whole weekend was we had witnessed something that we are probably never going to witness again. And that was the fact that was Chris Scott's first 4-run loss in 320 games of coached AFL. That is an unbelievable statistic. That's 2 generations, basically.
Yeah.
That's
It's
it's unbelievable that team has been able to go as long as they have, and only have now suffered their first 4-loss run in 320 games.
The other amazing thing to come out of that weekend of football as well too is Ben Mackay. You heard this one?
What's this one?
Well, so in the entire time, 6 8s 28, 6 8s, 6 4s 24, 7 32. So he's played in 8 wins out of 11 games already with Essendon. And his entire career with North Melbourne, he had 8 wins.
That is also another interesting stat. It is a perplexing thing. Are we done talking about the football?
Yeah, a couple of
questions.
Buzzies. Obviously, we know where he is in morning in the fetal position. Shit Kilda's come up again. Love to see your work, Bo Hawkins. Is Charlie Comden the most underrated intercepting defender in the comp? Bo Hawkins is asking the big questions.
Underrated intercepting. I would probably agree, except that I have a brand new player to bring under the J-Wall stable.
Well,
and that's Aaliyah from Giants. That final 5 minutes was just the most immense intercept football I have ever seen from such a young bloke.
Was it?
To have it on, because they were coming hard, and to just back up with mark after mark after mark and body positioning, unbelievable. Camden, probably at the moment.
Well, here's the thing, right? So, 2 things. I don't watch a lot of North Melbourne games because they're normally over by the time the first ball is bounced.
All right. You've got to watch him.
Right. What, Charlie Comden?
Yeah, I'm talking about Charlie Comden.
Yeah. Also, when the ball is coming down that much every single week, you're going to get a fair bit of it. So, Charlie, when you play, when North are good, I will say, though, he has got some talent. He has definitely got some talent. Mac Andrew is the one I was just like, head exploded when I saw some of the things that he was serving up at the start of that Carlton game. He was just all over Curnow, and unfortunately fell apart at the end. But he's turned into a really nice key defender down there as well, too. So it's nice to see. We always talk about Hollywood Boulevard with all the forwards, etc., the midfielders. I think the defenders, considering that all coaches coach to defense, to see the defenders getting a bit of love on the chat is sexy time. So, yeah, really good point there. But there's some good stuff coming down. Even like Adam Tomlinson on the weekend. I know it was only St Kilda, and there is a bit of a thorn in the side with Melbourne supporters when it comes to him. But he totally turned up on the weekend and played a really, probably even best game. He killed it on Queen's birthday last year, or King's birthday last year. And hopefully he's probably going to be doing it again in a couple of weeks against Collingwood as well, too. So it's good to see those backmen really getting a nice bit of coverage because they bloody well deserve it.
Can we talk about some coaches?
Yes, go for it.
All right. So I want to appeal to. First off, I want to talk about North Melbourne. I know we've got Bo on here tonight, which is fantastic to have a North supporter with us still.
Yep.
They haven't just shut off. Is there any concern with North and their direction at the moment? Bo, I'd love to hear from you, or leave us a comment or on our Facebook page, or send us a voicemail. Is there any concern?
Are you asking me, or are you asking just everybody out there?
I'm asking you, but I'm asking you, but I'm asking thoughts, because this is now this is getting pretty bad for North. This is getting pretty bad.
True.
Is this the direction that they see themselves going, or do North need to do something like bring in some mature bodies back into this club through free agency?
Well, all right. So this is where it gets a bit, I would almost say Twilight Zone. They haven't got a backline, Jdog. They haven't got a backline. So Everybody is going to kick a score. When the ball goes past virtually the halfway mark of the ground, they're out of it. They just don't have a forward line. They just don't have a back line to stop it.
Mhm.
So, of course, the big dogs down there are going to kill it. You know, when you lose Ben Mackay, who's been the linchpin, and you have Griffin Logue goes down with an ACL, like they're two things. Mackay on you probably, but when Logue goes down, you didn't see that one coming. All right. The other thing is as well too, if you're talking about free agency, why would you go to North? Now, I think if you're a free agent, I think it depends on where your career is at. If you're a gun, and let me pick someone, Harrison Petty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just picking this. He's not playing like a gun, but it's someone that I can relate to. He's got the option to either probably stay at Melbourne or go to Adelaide at the end of this season, you'd think, right? Mm-hmm. Why would he go to North?
Well, it's money.
But do you want to play in loss after loss? At the stage of his career, he was only 23, 24 at the most. So he's still a young buck. He's got plenty of years in front of him. Would you waste it there? The flip side being, let's just say it was, I'll throw this one up. Let's just say it was Stephen May.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to the end of his career, Melbourne have got a backup full back coming in. He would go, I would say, to North because he's not going to play in a flag. He's already got his flag. Sorry. We're moving him on. He's going for the money. See, it's okay to be free agents, but you have to want free agents who want to go there and not just the bottom of the barrel type of free agents. If you want the gold, you're going to have to pay the money and make it attractable.
I think North has an attractive list, though. That's the problem. I see that they've got the forward. They've got a midfield that represents something. So if you're willing to take a 10-year deal and a cut for 1.3 over 10 for you, just for a player to get there, because they've probably got some sort of money like that.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you jump at that opportunity? Not everyone makes the greatest moves at the time, but 2 to 3 years later, they pay off. Stephen May's a perfect example.
Jack Gunston would be a perfect example, but I think he's done the same thing, but at Hawthorn. Ollie Wines, Luke Parker, two perfect because they need the leadership on that ground and they need the bigger bodies to give Wardlaw, Cheezel, Dersma, McKercher a chop out as well too. I would also say if there was a semi-decent centre-half forward that they could throw down there because it's all on Larky's shoulders. Cam Zerha is not performing at all.
Sheezel?
Well, he's not a centre-half forward.
He's not a centre-half, he's a forward.
Well, he's a midfielder who just racks them up. They need so many things, and unfortunately, they cut their list so far back so many years ago, and they've struggled to get back on the park since.
I do agree with that.
And that's what's killed them. They're going to have to go back to the draft again. They're going to be paying for another season. You can throw as many draft picks at them. I think they need probably more development work than draftees. Oh, sorry, what did I say that? Gun recruits. They just need I can only go back to my club. When they brought in Bernie Vince, when they brought in Jordan Lewis into the Ds to set that structure up and to set those habits up early on was a stroke of genius by Roos. That's what they need. Could you imagine you put Parker, you put Wines into that mix? If you put someone like a Liam Ryan into that group, it would just add a little bit of spunk into that forward line that they sort of don't seem to have at the moment. Charlie Dixon would be a nice option to go down there just to take a bit of the pressure off Larky. That's what they need. So you can say it's a coaching thing, but I don't think Clarkson can only do it. Doesn't, and like I said, it doesn't matter how good your game plan is. If you don't have the cattle to handle it, you're going to be in. It doesn't matter what you throw at them, and that's where a lot of clubs go wrong. Is that they try to implement game plans that the players just can't execute.
Well, but why? Because
Lob at North Melbourne would be a perfect choice for them.
Why can't that's the question I want to know though, Peps. Is just saying they can't implement the game plan. Why can't they implement a game plan? They've grown up in systems. They've grown up under many coaches, under the 14s, 16s, 18s, Resis to now senior list. They've played on different coaches.
Yeah, but it's because they're not fit enough. Their bodies aren't mature enough. They don't have the leadership. So when things are not right for the people to go, no, go here, go there.
So can I bring you the point of what David King suggested as an alternate option for these clubs?
Yep.
Give them an extra $1 million on top for the back office stuff. Let them hire the best fitness staff. Let them build buy more equipment.
Let's sort of broaden that. Why the soft cap hasn't been put back to what it was pre-COVID is a disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
Because the coaches took a massive, massive haircut. They lost people, and they were doing the jobs of 2 people in a lot of cases as well too. And they've never put it back.
Right.
And I know a lot of clubs, when they took up Gather Round, the playing group said, no, we're not going to take the money. We're going to give that to the coaches.
Mm-hmm.
The AFL preach all this stuff, we're a great place to work. They treat the coaches like shit. Perfect example. If let's just say you're on a contract, Jdog, with pick a club, Port Adelaide,
mm-hmm.
and we sack you, we get rid of you off the list, we have to pay out your contract. You sack a coach, you only have to pay 6 months worth.
Yeah.
Why?
To protect clubs from
But
making
why
clubs against themselves.
No.
Can I give you an example right now?
Bullshit. The club, if you sack the coach, you pay the coach what you signed him up for. If it's okay to do it with a player, you do it with a coach.
Well, I think this is where there's going to be my conversations tonight. I can have it roll into it now, but I think you need the flexibility for the coaches as you do with the players, because how many players sign long-term contracts and then are out of there after a year or 2 years or 3 years, and you're like, hang on, we've got another 2 years on our contract remaining. Oh, no, I don't want to. I want to go and play with North Melbourne now because they've got Alistair Clarkson as the coach.
Mm-hmm.
So if the industry isn't prepared to hold players to account for that, then why should clubs be held to account for coaches that aren't working out for them?
Because you signed them to a contract.
But that's the same thing. A player signed a contract with the club.
Yep. But what are you talking about in the middle of trade? Like, are you talking about somebody who's in the middle of a contract and go, I want to leave, I want to get out of here?
Whatever could be, yeah.
Yeah. Clubs can still hold those players to account. If they find a trade that's amicable for both parties, I'd go with it. But if they don't find a trade that's amicable, too bad, too sad.
Well, the only player...
I signed you up to a contract for 3 years as our coach, and after 2, it was a shitstorm. You're entitled to get what you signed up for.
Well, I think
because the club is making the decision to get rid of you. You'd stay there if you would. Why should the club get off? The club should be doing their due diligence, and if they stuff up, they should be held accountable for it. Well, it should not be the coach or too bad, too sad.
I bet it's the same for players, though. Those rules don't apply to players.
They do apply to players.
They don't really.
How?
They don't really.
If a player wants to leave,
they will find a way to make that player work and leave. The only one that's been held out is the GWS guy recently passed away.
Cam McCarthy.
No,
they did it with Bobby Hill a couple of years ago.
Cam McCarthy. He had to sit a year. He was running hot, had to sit a year out to then play for Freo.
So be it. That was his choice. He didn't have to. So be it. That was his choice.
That's the only one I can think of where a player
Ryan O'Keefe wanted to go down to Carlton when he was playing at Sydney. Sydney went, no, you're under contract. You're staying with us. One of Flag and Norm Smith.
I just think that it should be the same. If we're happy for players to leave contracts halfway through or 3 years to go, 1 year to go on their contract, then why can't clubs be in this position to go, this coach isn't working out for us, instead of suffering another $1 million loss?
No, because you signed him up and the player wants to leave. The coach doesn't want to leave. The coach doesn't want to leave. You're sacking him.
Of course.
Yep.
Anyway, it's a good conversation, Peps. You and I are probably going to
Great
agree on this one here.
Yeah, I just think it's one of these things. And look, it's coming through on the chat right now. Papley wanted to leave. Remember, Papley wanted to go to Carlton. Sydney went no. Josh Dunkley wanted to go the first time to Brisbane, and the Western Bulldogs said no. So it does happen. They do hold them to account because the clubs are going, mate, if we can find a trade that works for us, we'll move you on. But if we don't, you're under contract, you're staying.
Yeah, I think it's a rare move these days.
Yeah, it is a rare move, and I think clubs need to be a bit more ruthless and not just give in to the players. Perfect example, Grundy situation. Look how he's absolutely turned it on. And that's going to talk about a topic that we're going to raise that came up from a listener. We got a message from one of our listeners, and we're going to address that in a moment. But yeah.
All right. Quickly touching.
Yep. Ooh,
Saints fans. What do we do with Ross? Where are Saints fans with Ross? Because Peps, as you and I have some insight into a little bit of the AFL world, not much, but a little bit of an insight. We know that coaches and coaching staff are talking to players and list management, and they're starting to talk together with other clubs across it.
Yep.
Those conversations are happening almost from round 3, I feel like, these days. I feel it's getting shorter and shorter.
Apparently like 2 years in advance.
Yeah. So what do we do with Ross? Because the risk is they're not playing great football at the moment, St Kilda. I don't think it's actually that bad, but they are, as you said, the worst team in the bottom 8.
Yep.
Fans are over it. They feel like they've lost all heart. They feel like the club is just a little bit dead now. Do you hold on and keep him for another year, which is your contract? Or is the time now to get rid of Ross the boss and bring in someone who can then advance those conversations, knowing that next year they've got this person, they're going to train under this person, it's going to be what it's going to be?
So Ross is an interesting one because you got to remember they got rid of Brett Ratton because they thought that Ross would deliver them to the promised land.
Yeah.
Hasn't eventuated so far. Speaking of a St Kilda person last year, they're just like, yesterday, and they're just like, well, we're lost. It's no hope. It just doesn't, we had so much hope at the start of the year. And then now it's no. This is a team that made finals last year. So once again,
Scott Waters was a surprise one going back, 6 years ago now. Scott Waters, that was a surprise one.
Yeah, they signed him up and then basically booted him.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I'm looking at going, well, you know what? You got rid of a coach. So this is where I'm talking about. You got rid of a coach to bring in Ross Lyon. If you want to sack Ross Lyon, you pay out his contract. See, this is what I'm talking about, Jdog. They sacked a coach to bring in another coach. They've stuffed up. They have to be held accountable.
They have just 6 months of salary.
Right, but it should be 12. They should be the entire contract. It should be the contract. If you want to move somebody on, I've got a contract. You move me on, you pay me out.
Do you think, Peps, there's a bit of unconscious bias between you and I? Because you and I see this a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a bit of a fan of the American sports, and I want to see a little bit more American sports brought into the AFL. Why? I don't mind mid-season drafts and moving players on, and that's just the cut and thrust of the game. And you get cut after game 3, and then you can come back and you can join another list and all that sorts of things. I don't mind if Ross left after round 11. What are we now? Round 13. Sorry, after round 13. And they found another coach, and he played, and whatever. I don't mind. He gets a 6-month contract. He'll go somewhere else. I don't mind all that.
I won't do it. I won't do it.
They'll hold on to. We'll do it. Are they going to keep him for one more year? Because the risk is, Peps. There are commercial risks with this decision.
You know what? So will they? Well, we're talking about which is the better option. Do they stay there for an extra 12 months with Ross? I want to love to hear what the listeners say about this. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Do they stay with Ross for another 12 months, which they have to, because they don't want to have egg on their face to say, yes, we did get rid of Ratton to bring this guy in, and now we're going to sack him? They won't do that, mate. Boards are all about egos and arrogance.
Well, they've lost
it. They will not do that. They will not do that. Huh?
The St Kilda guy left, didn't he? Just recently, last 4 weeks, last 3 weeks.
Everybody's been leaving St Kilda recently.
Look, I'm actually probably more in agreement with you there. I think I think there is a lot of ego involved in the boards, and I think after the let's say the last 8 years of St Kilda, in terms of what they've done coaching wise and list wise and all that sort of stuff, the change and all that stuff, I think that you're probably right. I think that they won't at this stage make a move on Ross. I think they'll see it out to the end of the next year because it's more ego driven than performance driven.
Yeah, on both sides. But mind you, I watched them yesterday. They should have been 8 goals down, 9 goals down at halftime.
Easily.
If it wasn't for Melbourne's bad kicking, that game was over. That game should have been over at quarter time. That's how bad they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I bring something up?
Yeah, sure.
This is coming from AFL Insight on the YouTube page. G'day, lads. Thoughts on the second best team in the comp? Obviously, he's talking about Melbourne or Port Adelaide. I'm not too sure which one. Seems like you throw a blanket over 10 or 11 sides at the moment. AFL Insight, love to have you on board. I responded to one of his videos. If you haven't had a chance, get onto the AFL Insight YouTube page. Cracking videos and talking about the AFL media and the way that we are completely backwards in the way that we use YouTube and the way we use our clips as well too. Definitely go and have a look. But I can't fault, and it hurts me to do this, how good Essendon are going at the moment. They did get a bit of a scare on the weekend, but they have totally exceeded, I think, their supporters. And if any Essendon supporter says, oh, we saw this coming, you're dreaming. What I will say, though, is you've had a pretty good run of things up until this point. You've got a lot tougher run in the next half of the season. So give me another 6 to 8 weeks, and then we could talk about it. If you're still sitting in the top 4 with a couple of rounds to go, then I'll say, yep, you're in a really, really good spot. But, yeah, I think that they're going to find it a little bit challenging when they get into playing teams like the Swans, Port Adelaide, Carlton, Collingwood, Melbourne, GWS, Western Bulldogs. It's going to be a lot more of a challenge for them. Even though I wrote them off a couple of minutes ago, Geelong as well. It's not going to be easy. And yeah, we've seen what has happened to Essendon over the last couple of years. I just think, though, the way that their defensive structures have been over the last month have been sensational. Stringer's got a bit of form again as well, so that helps. So when you got 2 meter Peter, Langford, and Stringer all playing good footy, you're going all right, and that's what I like to see about Essendon as well too. But the jury's still out because they've done this over the last couple of seasons, as you would know. But they do look a hell of a lot better.
I think they are probably, I'm going to say that they are my 3rd ranked team at the moment.
Yep.
Swannies are untouchable. They're in rare air.
Yep.
I think that even though their ladder position does not indicate how good they're going, I think Collingwood, even though they drew with Freo, they had 6 main guys out. To still pull away with that draw is pretty incredible.
Exactly.
And Essendon are 3rd. They're the 3 hottest clubs at the moment.
Well, it's interesting because you got Mossy's come in with a bit of a cracker as well too. What would you prefer? The Bombers don't make the finals or make the top 4 and go out in straight sets? Look, we all know the answer to that one. It's option B. We would love them to make finals and then go Sam Stozer. It would be sensational. Everybody would love that. Everybody would love that, except Essendon supporters. But Bo's come out with this one. Melbourne are the 2nd best side in the competition and arguably the most underperforming premiership window team in the last 30 years. Can't actually agree with you on that one. We are not the 2nd best team in the competition. There's so many issues with our forward line at the moment. I think it's going to lead into what we're going to talk about in a moment from one of our listeners. And I wouldn't say we're the most underperforming premiership window team because we did actually win a premiership. I'd probably throw in Port Adelaide in that. I put Brisbane in there as well too.
Essendon, Jdog.
I wouldn't put Essendon because they haven't done anything for so long.
In the last 30 years, though, Peps, 30 years, Essendon, they had that team.
Essendon, yeah, but they won a flag in that time.
Collingwood in that time.
Collingwood won a flag last year. So you got to look at teams who haven't won flags. Yours is one of them. Brisbane didn't win them in the last.
I'm seeing this more of like drop-offs, almost drop-offs.
I'm going on the lines of teams that have been fantastic and just didn't win a flag. GWS, I'd throw them in there as well too. GWS have been sensational for goodness knows how many years and haven't been able to do anything. I'd even throw Fremantle in there because Fremantle for quite a number of years were pretty good and just didn't do anything. So I think there's some other teams. Like what I would say though is that I would have hoped that Melbourne were able to pinch, and I don't say pinch, but get another flag. I think last year really hurt because they lost both finals by a combined margin of, I think it was 9 points, 10 points. The year before, they were too banged up by the time they got to finals. And, so, I wouldn't say they're the second best team, but I think they've got a lot of upside. And I think a lot of those teams in that top 8 at the moment have got a lot of upside. And if they can play, it doesn't matter how good you're playing your footy right now. If you're playing the best footy in the last 6 weeks of the season, moving into finals, that's what you got to be looking forward to. And that's where I hope that connection that this starting to get a bit better of kicks into it too. Really good questions, people. Keep dropping them in on the chat. We love answering. Hey, Jdog, we mentioned to the listeners over the last couple of weeks, if you jump onto our Facebook page or our Spotify page, you can leave us a voicemail because we want to have questions from our beautiful audience, our Lace Outlaws as well. We got a call that came in from Joel Michael. He's been with us since day dot. He's a massive Melbourne guy, loves the club, but he left a voicemail for us last week, which we weren't able to tell because we were both unfortunately crook. So we thought we'd play it this week because it sort of relates a little bit of what happened yesterday. And I've done a bit of research into it as well too. Funny enough, yes, we've actually done a bit of research on this show. Doesn't happen all that often, but when we get a question from the audience, we want to put a bit of effort into it. So, Jdog, I'll get you to hit play on your end. Have a bit of a listen to this, and I'd love to hear from the listeners and the viewers right now your thoughts as Joel's message goes to where. Over to you, big boy.
All right.
Peps, definitely. And I think, Jdog, you can probably give a good outsider's opinion on this as well. My concern with the Melbourne Football Club is the lack of development. Now, consistency is important, but I'm concerned about the lack of development since our flag in 2021. You have a look at who was at the club then that played in that grand final year and who's playing still now that is still at the club, and you'll find that it's pretty similar in terms of who's playing. Now, the argument can be made, that's good, that's consistent. But the other argument for me is that we have not improved, we have not developed many players. Like Windsor comes into that side. Taj Woden should play a full game and not be a sub. He's earned his stripes. But apart from Windsor and apart from Woden, what have we done? What have we done since 2021? I'm very concerned about the development at the club. We got Ollie Seston in the reserves, kicking 4s and 5s, and not even getting mentioned by the coach. We got Fullerton, who we brought over as part of the Grundy replacement, can't get a game. McAdam was injured previously, played on the weekend, didn't look amazing, but we'll give him some time. But again, that's Grundy. Grundy's gone out and absolutely dominated this year. We got rid of, we cut too deep. We got rid of James Jordan. He's gone out and had the best 2 weeks of football he's ever had in the last 2 weeks. The Tagger redeveloped himself. We look at Harms, best 2 weeks of football in the last 2 weeks. He's gone out and redeveloped himself. What have we done, and where is our improvement coming from? I'm starting to get very, very worried that same old with Melbourne. Slow and steady does it, and we're just not developing.
All right. Very good call from Joel Michael Peps, and I think it was off the back of the West Coast loss.
That was on the back of the West Coast game, which, yes, to be honest, I didn't even watch. I watched about the first quarter, and I went, "This is not going good." And then I think I went to Smorgies or something for the rest of the night.
So for those people, if you've got something like that, just leave us a voicemail on our chat. We'll work out a bit of technology. We try to get the audio off it. Facebook wasn't playing nice for us, but that's what you got to do. Just leave us a voicemail, and we play you on the show, and then you get the thoughts of Peps or myself or both of us if you want to have us both contribute.
Yep.
So
all
Peps,
right. So the bowling on this one, if you don't mind, Jdog. Look, he's got a really good point, but I think it's a bit misleading as well too. So when I look at that, there's only 5 players who are not on our list at the moment that are not who were in that premiership team. So that was James Jordan. Okay, didn't get on at all. So he's a premiership player, and he'll never take that from him, but he didn't go on that day. Harms, up until the start of last year, throughout last year, he wasn't tracking all that well. Like he wasn't getting a spot, wasn't getting a game. So that's it. Grundy, now, looking back now, I think Melbourne should have played a little bit more hardball with the way that they traded Grundy. They basically traded him for what they paid for him. Mm-hmm. They should have got a bit more for him, to be honest. And you could say, oh, well, look at what's going on behind Max. Well, they're two completely different ruckmen. Let's be honest. Max Gawn is almost in Brownlow contention form. That's how well he's been playing this year. And it's okay to have a Rolls Royce in the driveway, but if you're parked behind a Bugatti, it doesn't matter, mate. Well, I'm driving the Bugatti every single day of the week. So there's not much you could do about that. Jackson's gone. And I think I think out of all of them, he was a massive loss because he really complemented. But you can see he's gone over to Fremantle and having the dual ruckman with Darcy, and that's not working. So he needs to be one out by himself. What I think is the biggest loss is Brayshaw. The first four that they were able to contend with or work that they were leaving, Brayshaw having to retire, I think they didn't see that one coming at all. And I think that's caused, a whole, because Brayshaw goes on to a half-back line, wing, midfield rotation. Now, someone like a Jordan who would have jumped into that spot if we'd known that he was gone, we could have said, hey, Jordan, you're going to be playing midfield from now on. They would have kept him, or they would have kept Harms, I reckon. But because Brayshaw left, that left a hole in that rotation. So I think that has been the biggest loss out of the entire lot. What I will say, though, is when he talks about the development side of things, this is who they've brought in since that particular time. And also Toby Bedford. I think I didn't include him in that list, but that was another one who you look back and go, they probably should have played him. I remember he played a game. I went to the President's Lunch with Tori, absolute superstar. She's been here since day dot. And he absolutely smashed it that day as well, too. So definitely I'm ashamed that he's gone. But, he would have been perfect. And they kept Chandler over Bedford. Much of a muchness, but I think Bedford's got a lot of upside. But from Melbourne's perspective, you've got to look at this. This is who they've almost introduced into this team. McVee, absolute gun down back, like hasn't put a step from off the rookie list. All right. Chandler's come in, been very serviceable, I would say. Van Rooyen, he's only 20, so he's going to have a massive upside. Blake Howes, who got dropped last week, but played every game so far this season. You got Daniel Turner, who has unfortunately been struck down with injury, got his face smashed last year in the year before, in the King's birthday game. This year he's gone with a calf after kicking 3. You got Caleb Windsor, who's came into the team. Tholstrop's played a game, but he's still a bit raw around the edges. You've also got to remember Jake Bowie had only played 7 games at that particular moment when we got to that grand final. So he was virtually a new player there. Woden, I do agree. He has showed a bit of spunk, and I think he should be getting more of a regular game as well. And they have brought in McAdam as well. So they have blooded it, but they've also, what they've done is they've changed the way, and this is where I'm sort of a 50-50. They've changed the way that they're playing. They're trying to get more ball movement, faster ball movement through the middle of the ground, which is going to give up a lot of their contested ball, which is what they've played over the last 3 years and what got them a grand final and what's worked so well. I think they've maybe thrown a bit of the baby with the bathwater out because they've sort of seen what teams like Carlton, Collingwood, Brisbane are doing with faster ball movement. But Melbourne's OneWood was that contested brand. And I think they're sacrificing maybe a little bit too much for the other way. And I'm not too sure if they're right for it as well, too. So they've also, when I look at it, what's that? That's 2, 1, 2. Oh, and also Bailey Laurie as well, too. I've forgotten. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's like 10 new players that they're trying to bring in whilst keeping the existings. Matt Jefferson could debut. I reckon Matt Jefferson, they picked him up in 2022 with Van Rooyen. I reckon 2021, sorry. I reckon he might debut against North. Fullerton, I reckon, might come in if they give a Gawn a rest. And I do agree. I would like to see Seston. I'd like to see Verrill. So I would like to see a couple of those lower end players debut, but you've got to drop someone for them. And that's the other thing. So I think that he does keep his regular ones in there. And I think every coach has their favorites. And I do think that they drop the wrong ones at times and they don't drop them on reputation. But when your backline is playing really well, you've got a midfield that's humming along nicely. It's sort of hard to drop people when you're not. If you were losing week in, week out, I get it. But when you're winning form is good form, and people don't really want to change that. So I can understand that frustration because those frustrations that he's brought up, I've been with it. I will say one thing though. I for every moment I love Goodwin, then there's frustration. I can't stand his press conferences. They are fucking useless as teats on a bull. Doesn't give you anything. Doesn't show any emotion. I love what a Voss shows. I love what a Scott knows. I love what a Longmire. I even love what Kenny brings to press conferences. Goodwin, same in, same out. I don't like it. And the other thing is that I'll look at the assistant coaches, and the only two major changes that we've had is when Uze left, McAdam came in. McWalter came in. That's it. He's supposed to get new ideas and freshness if you just got the same time again. It's not great. I don't like it.
Maybe Melbourne are just a bit shit.
Well, you could say that. We might be shit.
I'm just maybe just not as good as you think you guys are. Like I think you're a middle team. I think you're not a bad team. I don't think you're a Sydney Swan echelon, but I certainly don't think that you're a North or an Eagles. I think you're just going all right.
Yeah,
I think the development's not that bad.
It's like your team. We don't want to go all right. We're sick of going all right. All right's nothing. Like, I don't want to be in the friend zone. We've spoken about this before. We don't want to be in the friend zone.
I think that you're
loose, or we want action. We don't want to be in the friend zone. And at the moment, we should be getting action. And yeah.
Do you know what I think it is? Do you think it is? I think it's the fact that Melbourne have been shit for so long, and 1 year you managed to dine at the chef's table, but really you're just the rats, you're just the mouse of the competition, and that's okay.
That's
Peps,
okay.
This is reality. You need to be in reality, Peps.
You're throwing out some burley. You try and make me bite at this. That's fine. Okay.
I'm not. This is reality. This is reality. Every club has development issues. Every club has player management issues. Every coach has their favorites. Do you know what it is? You got beaten by a shit team. Every team is going to get beaten by a shit team this year. We're all going to we're going to throw our toys out of the cot.
We beat by a shit team and we beat you. So get stuffed. Right. But no, I'd love to hear what the listeners think. Do you think that that's a fair point? And I think it's a great point that he makes up. And I want everybody. You've
had some lean years. That's all.
Yeah. Here, not generating enough inside 50s, plus 6 per game in 2021. Look, I agree with that, but we're playing a different type of footy. You know, got to remember, we played a game last year in a final where we kicked, I think there might have been something like 30 more inside 50s and we still lost because we would just bang it in. We've changed the way that we're playing. So
you've got one of the most deadly forward pocket players in the game. You've got Van Rooyen, who's just getting people excited. You've got a back line that still stands up. You've got a midfield. Yes, you lost Brayshaw. And you had Oliver, who's
Jdog, all right? And Melbourne's not complaining. Yeah. But I just think we're regenerating on the fly where normally we haven't been able to do that. So to be where we are with what we've brought in, I'm okay with. Right.
I think you're going well.
Okay. Can I move on to a couple other things before we wrap up this massive? It's been a shocking episode. Like, we haven't even taken a breath. Thank goodness I had that bowl of custard before the show. Otherwise, I'd be struggling big time. Hey, Nick Watt has asked me. He said, just wondering if you could give a hi to my friend Jordan Flopper. Jordan Flopper from Peps and Jdog. G'day, champ. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Tell your mum and your dad and your aunties and uncles about Lace Out because we gave you a shout out. I expect to subscribe. And if you're not subscribing, everybody who's watching this right now, you need to get on the YouTube page and subscribe because we're lace out. It's how you want your footy. Rightio. Jdog, holding the ball.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a solution to how to fix holding the ball. It's a radical idea, but I think it's something that is completely different, but it might have a bit of the method behind the madness. Can we go through that right now?
Let's go for it.
All right. So, as we know, holding the ball is just the AFL, whatever reason, will not pay it. As an example, on the weekend in the Carlton versus the Suns game, there were 131 tackles laid with a whopping, stay tuned for this, 4 holding the ball paid. 4. Disgraceful. And one thing that I cannot stand, and I know you see this, and everybody on this season as well too. When there's a ball gets under a player, and then the player's teammate lays on top of them to hold the ball in to cause the stoppage. Umpire goes, give it to me, and then it's a ball up. Here's my radical idea.
I like it.
As well as just a normal standard holding the ball, what about a team holding the ball? So picture this. It's gone down in the Port out. Melbourne are down by 4 points. Port Adelaide into their forward line. Ball comes down to ground. Aaliyah jumps onto the ball, holds it in, and at the same time, Jason Horne-Francis stacks on the mill to hold the ball in. But at the same time, Christian Petrarca grabs the back of Aaliyah, hand up, look at me, and the umpire goes, team holding the ball, your team is not making an attempt at all to get the ball out, holding the ball. Free kick, turn it over. That's my radical. I'm saying that instead of just holding the ball like a one-on-one, if you've got your teammate on your back holding it in at the same time and the opposition player pretty much holds them up like the old school days, hold the back of the jumper and hold the hand up, waving to the umpire saying, holding the ball, that should be holding the ball because your team is not making an attempt to get the ball out. Thoughts and feelings, listeners. I reckon it's a cracking idea, and I wanted to throw it out there because it's left field, and it's true. Bo Hawkins has written this. Andrew Dillon blaming congestion is like me blaming the dog for eating my homework. Congestion has nothing to do with holding the ball. When there's 131 tackles, umpire, and you only pay 4, that is an interpretation. When players are being spun around, they're making no attempt to get rid of the ball. Because they've got one hand being held, they've still got the ball. They've got to get rid of it, and they're not. And they're not paying it. And it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And what a player's doing? Well, if you're not going to call it, I'm going to bring him to ground. And we're seeing what's happening. Concussions, head knocks, players getting weeks. Something has to change. And I reckon stacks on the mill, team holding the ball, could be a way to stop to stop players just going stacks on the mill and just trying to hold the ball in.
I think that is adding a rule that just is once again will become frustrating because now we'll be going, oh, that was the second person on top. That's the third person. And you're like, oh no, the person who fell on top, they were pulled down into the contest.
Jdog.
No, I think
on the ball, making no attempt, and you see them jump on the back, and the player goes like that. It should be holding the ball because they are making no attempt to get it out.
Just get the rule right in the first place. Otherwise, it gets messy and messy.
I wholeheartly agree. They do not blow the whistle fast enough. They do not blow the whistle quick enough. They give the play with the ball way too much time. They let them take the amount of times I saw players getting run down over the weekend. Beautiful textbook tackles, dropping the ball, but because they made an attempt, it's play on.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Dispose of it correctly, and that is crap. You've got to dispose of it correctly.
How often have we seen players literally take the ball and dish off a handball in less than a second? If you are caught with the ball, done. Not opportunity or this. They can get rid of that stuff quickly.
Needs to be scrapped. If you get caught with the ball and you don't dispose of it correctly, they never used to have prior opportunity, and for some reason they brought it in, and it has made the game worse.
The other one, Peps, I'm not going to go near the Collingwood decision because I genuinely I thought it was a rule in my head that you actually had to give the ball back to the umpire every time. I thought that was the actual rule. Turns out it's not the rule. It turns out there's something about impeding something or impeding a umpire.
The whole reason behind that was because players were throwing the ball away or not giving it to the umpires and wasting time.
Clock.
That was what the whole purpose of it was.
So I'm not going to. I think it's a crazy decision.
By the letter of the law, that was correct.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been paid, I think, 4 times already this season. So
that was interesting. Anyway, the one that doesn't.
If Collingwood were up by 5 goals at that stage and that happened, no one would care.
Yeah, the one that I do want to ask Peps, just a yes or no question.
Yep.
Is kicking in danger a rule in the AFL anymore?
Yep, it is.
Okay, all right. Just never seen it paid. I haven't seen it paid the last 5 years.
Because not a lot of players kick it off the ground in packs anymore, except Darcy Byrne-Jones to win the game. Go, power!
No, I do think there's a lot of players who are kicking the ball when players are down with their hands on it. I'm like, ooh.
Well, no. Yeah, definitely. I just think it's another one of those rules that is just being, go back to the basics and get rid of all this fancy bullshit that they keep rolling out week after week. Hey, before we get into the fan tail, have you got your fan tail ready for this week?
You can't get them. They're done. Alan's just not making them.
Fan tails are done. We're going to have to think of some footy tails. I'm telling you, footy tails. There's something in footy tails. Rightio. Hey, remember how I told you 1 week at a time, there's some cracking games coming this week. Can I just go through the 8-point games that are rolling through round 12 of AFL action? And just remember, tune into our YouTube channel because I will have this week's losers up in the next 24 hours. All right. Thursday night, Port versus Carlton at your ground. 8-point game.
And before you go that one.
Huh?
Before you got that one there, before you go through your thing, has the AFL taken a shotgun to their product and just started to blow holes in it? After round 13, there's no more Thursday night games.
I know why. It's simple. Jdog, it's going to be part of the next year's rights. It's not part of this year's rights. If you want extra Thursday night games, you're going to have to pay for them. We're not giving them to you for free. And that's what it comes down to. It's a commercial decision, regardless of what they say. You want them because we know how big of a rating it is. You pay for them. It's just cutting the nose off to spite their face. All right. Yep. Magpies versus Western Bulldogs. 8-point game. Hawks versus Adelaide, like the two best teams outside of the 8, you'd almost say, over the last couple of weeks, are playing each other. How good's that? Eagles versus St Kilda. No one's going to watch that. Carlton versus Richmond. Boring. D's versus Freo. 8-point game. Suns versus Essendon. 8-point game. And Lions North have an official bye, not one of those pseudo buys that we say they have every single week. Swans and GWS have the bye as well too. So out of the 7 games, there's only 2 Barry Crockers in that, and the rest are going to be awesome. And I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Can't wait for it. So, this time next week, we are going to be talking about hopefully one of the best weekends of football that we have seen this year. Because I'll tell you what, it's lace out. It's how I want my footy. And I'm getting a little bit moist between the flanks right now because that is how awesome it is. Hey, Big Dog, cracking show. Anything else that you want to bring up before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, you happy with Sunday? You happy with a Sunday daytime game at Traeger Park?
Fine by me. Actually, I prefer a daytime than a nighttime. It gets too sweaty up there. Too moist. So I'll take the Alice Springs. It's good conditions. I'd rather play that there than Darwin because Darwin gets really, really hot and very hot and sticky. So it'd be really nice in there as well too. So, hey, everybody who's joined us, the chat has gone nuts tonight. YouTube's been going berserk. Facebook's been going berserk. Jdog is looking sexy as ever. I've got the new sign. It's been a cracking episode. So thank you for everybody who joined on late tonight. More importantly, join us next week. Also, I will have my losers up in the next 24 hours as well, too. So it is going to be a corker. So on behalf of me, the 377-game superstar, Reese Keeler, the great man, the 9th ranked Ironman in his age group a very, very long time ago. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Jamie, the Jdog Wallace, how do you want your footy?
I want it lace out.
Hope your team wins this week. And more
Also,
importantly, have a cracking night. And by the way, Johnny Sins, you're looking absolutely sexy tonight.
oh, thank you. Also, lace. Oh,
What?
have you noticed that behind you? Behind you, lace. Oh, the sign.
Yeah, there's a T.
No, it's French. It's French for like wear or when or something like that. Oh, is the way to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right, that's it. Okay.
bye.
Have a good night, everyone.
Love
Take care.
you.
Bye.